on stage not to debate education, but rather to share together a transformational vision for education in the United States. So I work for Convergence. It's a nonprofit that brings people together who don't agree with one another on issues of national concern for sustained dialogues to create breakthrough solutions on those issues. So 3.5 years ago, we launched a project on education. I started exploring what was the framing of a conversation that could both bring people together who don't agree with one another and actually lead to action. We were exploring conversations like the role of technology, the role of testing, how might we create collaborative environments in the schools. And after months of searching for a frame and many, many conversations with national leaders, I met a woman named Gisele Huff, and we landed on a frame of reimagining education. So in April of 2013, we kicked off an 18-month dialogue process and convened 28 leaders and practitioners in education. We had the goal of creating a compelling vision for education and launching a partnership of people committed to realizing that vision together. We had success was not assured, let's say that. We had a very diverse group of people. They were diverse in multiple respects. They were diverse with respect to the roles that they play in education. We had 2 teachers, 2 principals, 2 superintendents, 2 former state school officers. You kind of get the idea of the Noah's Ark of education. Along with the various views in education represented, charter school advocates, public school defenders, people who believed that testing set a floor for kids not to fall below, to those who believed testing was destroying the system. Social and emotional learning, blended learning, all sorts of different answers. And so I'm pleased to announce that 4 weeks ago, we publicly announced this vision together and launched a new initiative called Education Reimagined. And Education Reimagined is committed to amplifying the work of the pioneers out there, identifying and connecting those pioneers who are already doing this work, and contributing our voices to shifting the conversation away from reform to one of transformation. So before turning to Becky and Gisele to have them share about their experience, the vision, and what's next, I'm going to briefly share a little bit about the bold vision that they created together. So this transformational vision for education in the US is first and foremost a paradigm shift. And so we're all familiar with this, that we have the current model is one of a school-centered model inside of an industrial age paradigm. It's designed for standardization and efficiency. And what they have imagined, is a shift to acknowledging that we live in a networked era and a learner-centric model where all elements of a system are designed to be adaptable to the needs and aspirations of each and every child and are able to have each child reach their full potential. A school-centered model is characterized by things like it's designed to transfer knowledge. Kids are cohorted by age. They're expected to be at the same place at the same time. That learning happens in a single building and it happens during 6 hours of the day. In a learner-centered model, you see that there's a whole call for a whole set of different outcomes for children. A different set of outcomes needed to thrive today and tomorrow. You can see all of the kinds of outcomes we want for children. And it's a whole host of knowledge, skills, and dispositions, a 3-legged stool that we need to accomplish. And so in order to accomplish those kinds of outcomes, learner-centered education in this vision is characterized by 5 elements. So competency-based. So learning is no longer a time-based progression. It is making sure that every child is proficient and masters the set of competencies that they need to thrive. Number 2, it's personalized, relevant, and contextualized. It meets the child where they are with their brain wiring, with their interests, with their aspirations, and creates environments that are relevant and contextualized for them. There's learner agency. So rather than demanding a child be compliant, it is something that it develops them and co-creates learning with them until they can fully own their learning. It is also open-walled, so it recognizes that learning happens all of the time. It happens in lots of places at lots of different times, and that the community and the world are the playground for learning. And lastly, it's socially embedded. Oftentimes when we talk about personalized learning, we can get an image in our heads of meeting just the needs of that child. Socially embedded recognizes that what children need also is our thriving communities and know how to nurture and thrive in those communities. So once we had this vision, you can imagine that we realized we were not alone, that lots and lots of people, including all of you, had already arrived at this vision and were already out there doing work consistent with that vision. So we convened a small group in March of practitioners, and I want to share a short video with you. So let's take a look.
As 4- and 5-year-olds, they come to us thinking in a very divergent way. The sad thing is that many of them leave us 12 years later and they don't love learning.
We're still doing the same old things that you turn 16, you gotta be a certain grade versus, if you can master some content, let's move on.
Okay, we've got this vision, but how do we get there? I think this community makes possible the promise that educators have always had about why they are teachers. We didn't go into this to make money. We went into this to change the world.
This community has made possible the intersection of a lot of different ideas from different people and different organizations across the nation.
It opens up doors for a lot more idea sharing with people.
All right, so we're going to begin. So what brought you to the table to reimagine education?
Woody Allen. Because he said 80% of success is showing up. And when I began to talk to Kelly and her staff about the possibility of this project, and I think that at some point I invited myself, I'm not clear on that, but it was clear to me that the group of people that was being brought together did not include a strong advocate for blended learning. And that is what I'd been working on for a few years, and I was on the board of INACOL and of the Christensen Institute and of the Learning Accelerator, and I was concerned that the voice of the introduction of technology as an integral part of the curriculum would not be in that room. So one of the big reasons for me to be there was to protect the investment of my foundation, which is, in these areas. What I brought with me was a huge skepticism about the possibilities that this could lead to anything. I'm not a touchy-feely person, and I'm not big on doing things by committee. So I couldn't quite see how, bringing this group of people together was going to lead to anything, but I was there to defend my agenda. And the third thing, walking in the door, as Kelly mentioned, the foundation I work for is a libertarian foundation that believes in small government, limited government, and we were in the business for the first 10 years of my professional life, and I've been there for 17 years. I worked on school choice, all of the elements of school choice, which were attempts to challenge the establishment, which we saw as not serving the kids well. So in the course of those battles that I fought for 10 years, the powers that be, the establishment, were our adversaries, and obviously unions were part of that. So I walked in the door with the agenda on one hand, I'm gonna fight for the inclusion of technology in this, and these kind of mindsets that were not particularly helpful as I engaged in this.
Excellent. And Becky, why did you come to the table to reimagine education with Gisele?
I usually say ditto, but I won't say that this time. I'm in this surreal space in my life. I taught for the majority of my life, 8th grade science, those babies with attitude. And I found myself being elected to serve as a national officer of the largest labor union in the country. And every now and then I wake up and I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute, what experiment do I need to get ready for today? Oh, that's right, no, Becky, you're not in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania teaching. Yeah, Pennsylvania's in the house. But the opportunity, this incredible opportunity I have, allows me to represent 3 million teachers and other educators across the country, and we're a member-driven organization, and so we always think deeply about what our members need, what they want, what they need from us to do the jobs they love, and so we think a lot about the things that we take on. We believe that resources aren't just about money; they're about time and people, and so when we engage in something, we have to think about those choices. And for us, and especially for me, as I thought about the ask, when the ask came from Convergence, I thought about our mission. And our mission is to unite not just our members, but the entire nation to fulfill the promise of public education for every single student. Yeah, I know, it's powerful. And so it's the unite part. So when Kelly got in touch with us and we saw the list of names, I'm going, I don't think so. Those are people I talk to. And by the way, don't take any pictures and don't tweet it out. We'll be sitting here next year. But when I started thinking about, if that's our mission to unite the nation, then I need to be in rooms with Gisele. I need to be in rooms like this. I need to be in rooms of people who care deeply about our students and about the future of this country. And whether or not they have the same strategies as I have, if we are grounded, which we'll talk about in a minute, if we get grounded in what's important, then I need to be in those rooms. I need to bring the voice of our members into those rooms, and I need to listen with an open heart and open mind so that hopefully we can co-create ideas and solutions, and we can get to that part of our mission around uniting the nation for our students.
Excellent. And so that's what brought you to the table. And what did you find surprising about the process? What did you come holding on to that might have you might have loosened your grip on, or come out on the other end thinking differently about?
So the whole process surprised me completely. What was absolutely amazing to me was the ability of the facilitators to make us shed our paradigms, which was absolutely vital. If you can't let go of what you come in with, you can't get anywhere. And how we were able to very soon get away from the problems that we're facing today, leave those aside, completely remove from our minds and our discussions what is possible, right? I mean, we had to get beyond, we couldn't say, well, no, that's impossible. That was not allowed, and it was because the facilitators got us through the process of shedding these mindsets that we were really in a growth brain mode where nothing was impossible. We had to discuss what ought to be, regardless of whether we thought it was possible or what the problems were. And that was very surprising to me. I didn't think I could do that, and I didn't think other people could do that either. That they could let go of what they walked in the door with and actually concentrate on learner-centered education in America 20 years from now. What would it look like? And then back engineer. That to me was very surprising.
So this time I can say ditto. So, and I want to build on what Gisele just said, and then I want to add another piece to it. Excuse me. At the NEA, we're on a learning journey. We've been on it for a while to become our best selves, and we're using systems thinking to do that. And we use what we call a hierarchy of choices, and some of you may have heard of that before. We describe it as this wedding cake, and at the bottom, you know how a wedding cake is stacked, and at the very bottom really is the most important piece. It's the core of what you're doing, and that's where you get grounded in your purpose and your vision. The higher you go up on the wedding cake, you get to activities and to tactics, to strategies, to tactics, and then activities. Yeah, we couldn't agree on the strategies. Surely not the tactics. And forget about the activities. So, what I could not agree more, Gisele, with you. What the facilitators forced us to do is they pushed us back down that wedding cake to purpose. And that's what we started with that. What is the purpose of public education? And I want to share a little bit with that, because I just shared this yesterday, and I got a round of applause, Kelly. I know, it's just fabulous. And this was with our NEA folks, and we're meeting with our state staff, our affiliate staff who are responsible for instructional learning and professional development. And this purpose that we got grounded in was to enable all children to fulfill their full potential as empowered individuals, and you heard both of them talking a little bit about what that means. Constructive members of their communities, productive participants in the economy, engaged citizens of the United States and the world. And then when we talked about this vision, I love this part, that we are talking about a learning-centered system where all children thrive, and they are able to deeply engage in the global community, and they are prepared, and this is my favorite part, they are excited about their future. They are excited about their future. Too many of our kids aren't excited about their future. They can't imagine what's possible for them, and so I love that. So anyway, we got grounded in that base of the hierarchy of choices down there, and the facilitators, every time we wanted to get up to vouchers, see, no, that's a tactic. Yeah, no, push us back down, push us back down. What is this really about? And then the second thing I want to talk about is, and we also learned this in system thinking too, we talk about theories of success. And we talk about the ability to get to quality results is based on building quality relationships. And that period of time, Kelly, that you described, that 18 months, force us to build relationships with people we never would have talked to, or we would have talked about maybe, and we did, but we wouldn't have talked to. So when I entered this room with Gisele, I immediately, I have to tell, I don't think I told you this before, I immediately thought, boy, this is a brilliant woman. I'm not sure I agree with everything that's coming out of her mouth right now, but she's brilliant. She is wicked smart, and I need to listen, and I need to learn, and we need to talk. And over that period of time, we built this relationship, I believe, that led to that actually increased the collective thinking of the group, of the entire group, that actually increased the quality of action that we took as we created this vision, and that increased the quality of results that we know our students will have because of the work we did.
And we were able to solve problems. I mean, this was not an easy and a smooth process. There were a lot of very contentious discussions. But you're absolutely right, Becky, and I give a lot of credit to the conversion staff for that. They kept bringing us down to the first question they asked us the first day when we began the process. What is the purpose of education? And if you answer that question from the point of view of the kind of child you want to produce for the future of this country, you can't get caught up in the arguments that we were having. We just put them aside. We were able to let go of those things that were clearly going to be a barrier in our reaching an agreement. We let go of them. It's very hard to do. It's not an easy thing to do. You come in, you know, at my age, I mean, I'm pretty set in my ways, and, you know, to be asked to think about things in a different way, to listen to people like Becky, who I think is a brilliant woman too. The two of us should do something together. We
are. We're changing the world together.
We're changing the world together. That's right. That was another one of those very amazing things. I would walk away, you know, get on the plane to go back to California and think about what I've been through and really wonder, you went through that? Not possible.
That's great. So I'd love to hear you speak a little bit about the vision itself and what resonates with you most about it and how it's impacting you now, you and your organizations. Reverend.
Let's change the order.
So one of the things that I really so appreciated about the group of people that came together is that we had a teacher. I'm a teacher, but she went back to the classroom on Monday. When we finished convening, she was back in the classroom on Monday. She was teaching in an urban school district with 95% ethnic minority students, 98% free and reduced lunch. She was dealing with real kids with real problems in real schools, in communities that were not necessarily supporting their schools in the way that they could. And so it was really, really important to hear her voice. And one of the things that the group wrestled with was the impact of poverty and how we had to think about that in the work that we did. And one of the things that I appreciate about INACOL in their mission, they talk about equity and access and opportunity, and Maddie forced us to continuously talk about, and whatever we created, we could not exacerbate the opportunity and access gaps. We had to figure out how we address the needs, the needs of our students who have the greatest challenges, who come to us with those greatest needs. And so for me, as we talked about this new vision, what excited me was a couple of things. Not only that we were centered on the learning and the skills and the dispositions and the assets that they bring, and creating learning around them, meeting them where they need, where they are, and providing an education for them from the entire system of support around them so that we could actually meet their needs, and creating an opportunity where they own it themselves. That learner agency for me is huge, where they actually are owning, creating their own experiences, and we, the adults in the system, are supporting that in meaningful ways. The other element that is really important for me from our vision is the social, being socially embedded. And certainly for the group of educators and others who are gathered here, so often we think about online learning as something that happens in isolation with kids by themselves. And I know that you have grown far beyond that, from the blended learning opportunities, but also understanding the social context in which learning occurs, not only for that student themselves, but if they're going to be part of the global society, then they have to learn how to solve problems together and think critically together. And we have to create an experience where they're learning in a contextualized way, so they know how to solve problems and do those higher order thinking skills. And so we talked a lot about education as a common good, wrestled a lot with that. But at the end of the day, we came to an understanding that this is something that we have to do together, and that the system has to support for the learner, but for the entire society.
And that is, for me, that is the biggest thing as well. It's the learner-centered part of this. We're in the 21st century. First of all, the robots are coming, So bear that in mind. When you're thinking about the future, what you're training your kids for, we don't know how many years ahead of that, but the robots are coming. The good news is, the last job to be robotized will probably be teaching. I think the lawyers, the doctors, the technicians, the hedge fund managers, they'll be robotized way before teachers are, because teaching and learning is about human relationships and that human touch, the relationship between the child and the teacher. So when people talk about robots, don't worry so much. Not gonna. But there's another part of this, and the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And for the longest time, because we had no other solutions, we couldn't do it any other way. It's been all about teaching, because the responsibility of the adults was to impart knowledge to the kids. That was what we've done for millennia. And with the advent of the technologies we have now, this is no longer the case. For one thing, knowledge is a commodity. It's not something that experts or the shaman, who hold the knowledge. You can go on that little device if you're 11 years old and Google, like the superintendent yesterday who was telling us about his daughter and the ham. What was the ham contest? The ham contest. I mean, she didn't need anybody. She didn't have to have 7 generations of people who participated in this contest. She just Googled it, and she got first prize. So, where does that leave the expert who teaches you how to? Google is now. So knowledge is necessary, but not sufficient. It's the other things, the skills and dispositions that are going to help our kids get through the 21st century, which is completely different than anything that was before. So it's very important to shift the responsibility. That's too strong a word, not to shift it, but to understand that we have to make kids love learning intrinsically for themselves, and to give them the tools and develop what they need within themselves to take charge of what they need to learn and how to apply it. Because the world that they face, somebody entering, these little kids we saw here before, when they go into their earning time, they're going to face a world that we can't even imagine. And it ain't going to be all that pretty, let me tell you. I mean, so we have to make them resilient, we have to make them innovative, we have to make them creative, we have to give them confidence in themselves, that they themselves can do this. So, this is a complete transformation, which I think is completely included in that vision document. It takes into account the enormity of the changes that the next 30 years are going to bring. And it enables the kids to be the ones who are going to handle it, because we're not going to be around. We can only train them to do this. So we have to turn everything upside down and say it's about learning, it's not about teaching. But it is absolutely imperative that this is done by the teachers. Only the teachers can make this happen.
The one thing I want to say about, I could not agree more, except, you know, we have to change how we think about it as a teacher. I know that we're not doing it to them. We're not making them naturally curious. They're naturally curious. They naturally, you know, intrinsically want to learn. We're creating the space and providing the opportunities. You know, my grandbaby he's naturally inquisitive. When he saw me on the big TV on C-SPAN the other day, he said to his mother, he's saying, Nana B, why aren't you talking to me? He said to his mother, Nana B's not talking to me. Is her phone not working? Because he already is used to using FaceTime. He's thinking I'm talking to him. I'm on the screen. I'm talking to him. Why is he not? Why is that? Listen, he's 3. He's already naturally curious and using technology in ways that I still don't know what to do. And he is facing a world that we can't begin to create the solutions for now. And that's why this is so powerful, because the students are owning their own learning. And one of the pieces that we had to get past, actually, I don't know that we had to get so past this. I think we're all, you know, we've had this shift in this country. Even with the president's announcement about taking a look at over-testing of our kids and shifting away from that. I think we are in this shift in the country, but we did have a lot of conversation about assessments, and you know, it was a really powerful conversation. And if and when you read our document, we talk about assessments, and we talk about assessments as assessments for learning, assessments of learning, and assessments as learning. And one of the things that we propose as a paradigm shift is that the majority of our time as educators is spent on assessments as learning and assessments for learning. Because it's not that we don't need to do the summative, pieces of assessment. We do need to know that, but the for and as are directly tied to students. When we think about assessments as learning, we're getting right to that, that metacognition. So the students are right at the center of their own learning and thinking about what they need to do differently, that they're owning that and creating co-creating those next steps that they need with the adults, the trained adults who are around them.
And the other thing, if I could just add one more, you want
See,
me to
I told you.
ask a question?
I'm going to try to moderate here.
Yes,
I'm
okay, go
going
ahead.
to pull rank with our limited time.
Yes.
So, some people read this document and they see that we've produced a white paper, that you've produced a white paper, and they say, isn't this just going to be, another paper that sits on the shelf? What would you say to somebody who says that?
Oh, no, it isn't. For one thing, I think that what makes this document different, and it's true, that many people have written, this is the thing of the moment. I mean, I think everybody realizes that has a brain in their heads, that there's something wrong with the way we're educating our children. It's still what's going on, we're in the 1950s. I mean, it's ridiculous. That famous picture it was shown yesterday by Buddy of the two classrooms that hasn't changed. So, I mean, people get that. They don't know quite how to answer it or what to do about it. But what made our document different is the fact that you and I are on the stage together, Becky, and as a member of the board of INECOL, I want to thank you for being here, and say that it means a great deal not only to me personally because of our relationship, but to the movement as a whole. because what you represent, the people that you represent, are the people who are going to make it happen. So the fact that that is happening is already light years ahead of all the other documents that are gathering dust on the shelves.
Excellent. And so another way of, yes. How is this vision alive for you now and for your organization?
So I shared before that I'm a science teacher, and so, everything I do is steeped in the scientific method and, theories and proving them and rolling up my sleeves and getting into the work. And so in my role representing the NEA in this, what I'll call grand adventure, I immediately went back to our president and our executive director, and I said, if we're going to invest this kind of resource into this effort, then I need a commitment, collective commitment, that we're going to do something with it. Gisele could not be more right. I mean, we represent 3 million teachers and other educators all over this country. I love saying this. Did you know this? 1 in every 100 people is an NEA member in this country.
Wow.
Yeah, how wow is that?
That's wow.
That's pretty wow. Is that wow? Now, you add to that their family and friends. Oh my gosh, what we could do. We could change the world. But I remind you of our mission. It's uniting our members and the nation, because we cannot do this alone. But Gisele is right. Our reach is across this country and around the world. And I get to travel all over the America, and this is what I know. Our members are passionate about their profession and about their students. They inspire with action. They are rabid activists when it comes to protecting their babies and doing what's right. And I know that as I traveled around and I talked about this vision, Kelly, they were inspired that their union was involved in this kind of work, and that they saw a place for their activism. They saw a place for their, many of them taking on these hybrid leadership roles within their schools and their school districts. They saw a place for them in the union as advocates around professional issues. And so as we went back to the NEA, what we thought about was, how could we right now see a way to begin to make real this vision in our work and put it front and center. And for us at the NEA, it is about developing our strategic plan and budget and the strategic goals that we allocate resources to. And so in our strategic goal around empowering educators, we specifically call out the piece around helping to shape the future of public education with this in mind. And so our work will be built around that. We have, our president has assigned one of our executive governance folks to be part of our advisory committee with Convergence, our senior staff on strategy. This is a big part of his work. And for us, we're so serious about getting this done and it not being a white paper that it has found its way into the work that we are actually doing.
And so we're here today in a room full of pioneers, of those who are really making this happen for their kids every day. And so what would you like to say to them?
So, transforming education is not something that can be done 2 people or 4 people. It has to be done by people. And you're the people who can do it. You are the vanguard of this movement. So you need to own it, and you need to talk about it and get out there and proselytize for the vision, for the movement, for what it means to the kids. And we're going to change the lives of our children so that they can be absolutely successful in the 21st century. And this is every child. And I want to remind you This is something that was such a moment for me yesterday when we saw that panel of kids and we saw William. And we saw how William, in spite of his handicaps, with a brilliant mind and a way of expressing himself for a 7th grader that was just mind-blowing, was able to be accommodated and taken care of and brought to where he was by the system that he was involved in, which was personalized. If we can do that for William, we can do that for every single child in America. And we're the ones who have to make it happen.
So I would remind you that nothing changes without individuals. Nothing lasts without institutions. So this movement, and I call it that purposefully, this movement is about both the organic, and that is you. You are out there doing this work every single day. I know that as Kelly went through those 5 elements, you saw pieces of the work that you are doing. We're hopeful that we'll find more of you and connect each other together. But we also know that collectively we have a responsibility to organize this work, to be purposeful and intentional in connecting you to each other, to be purposeful and intentional about owning the responsibility for the change that must happen in the system of education. And so you have a role as individual educators to play, and then in your sphere of networks, you have an even larger role. So that is my ask of you. We're not driving this train, we're asking you to join us on it. So that we can drive it together. And I'll leave you with this. Of all the civil rights for which we have fought and died for 5,000 years, the right to learn is undoubtedly the most fundamental. The freedom to learn has been bought by bitter sacrifice. So whatever you might think about the curtailment of other civil rights, you must fight to the last ditch to keep open the right to learn. Those powerful words by W.E.B. Du Bois captures the magnitude of the responsibility you took on when you made the choice to become an educator. I have no doubt that you will join us on this journey, and Gisele, we will change the world.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent. So before I invite our last, before we close, I just want to say what a privilege it's been to work with people who are so deeply committed to kids. And, you know, regardless of title, regardless of organization, you are just powerful women who are changing the world. So it's been a privilege working with you. Thank you.